the top left for SKT1. We have with the 1-0 lead in this series.
SK Telecom T1 Su.
Just doing a great timing attack on map number 1. We'll see if his might is tested in the late game on map 2.
His opponent starts to the bottom right, starting for LGIM. This is our Zerg player. GTA is
LGIM Roshira.
These Castle players are loving their 10 overlords.
Zero probably with the fastest fingers in the GSL.
Yeah, he's got the fastest facial expression movements, that's for sure.
Yeah, those twitches are dangerous.
Can you imagine Lucero being a clown? Because I certainly can. Like, if you look at his face, I'm like, if he had clown makeup on, Lucero would make a sick clown. You see what I'm saying? If he had rainbow-colored hair or something, he already changed his hair enough.
The thing is, usually his facial expression doesn't really like change or mirror his mood unless he wins in the suddenly could S, which we saw last season. But I can certainly see what you're talking about. I mean, he has those sick twitches going on that already look funny, and if he suddenly has this really like intense and serious face and suddenly all the entire face twitches,
yeah,
he would look a little bit like Idra smiling. You would definitely laugh about that.
I mean, can't you see him like making a balloon for a kid? The kid doesn't really like it, and Lucero just looks over at him like, makes a weird face or something? Oh man. Lucero would be a perfect clown. I'm going to tell him and be like, listen, if you lose this 2-0 and you lose the up and downs and you're like reconsidering your career, you could become a clown. You could be the LGIM mascot.
Give him a little bit more credit. Come on, not the mascot.
Well, he could do something with that talent he has in this space, but you know, as I said, going into the second game, Su is going to be tested a little bit more in a map that's more standard for ZVZ because the last map it's Icarus. It's actually just a weird map that GOM made and put into the map pool. It kind of throws a wrench into the map pool because it's not your standard map. You can't play a normal game there. But for that reason, it's actually kind of fun.
You know, I really found the timing that we had for Su was pretty cool. I mean, with the lack of scouting information for the Sierra, it was kind of awesome. And this was one of those preparation games where you prepare a strategy and you go through with it. And I really want to see if Su has maybe something else up his sleeves. If he goes for a similar surprise element here in this game, that would be very interesting to see if Lucera A scouts it and B is able to stop it.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about as well. I imagine that Su is going to play the early game pretty standard, but then he may try to, based on these scouts, execute one of 3, for example, openings that he feels and he's prepared well. And again, in this match, Lucera is going gasless. He's going to use the extra minerals to make additional queens to help him defend and also get his harvester count up pretty quickly, but he's going to scout. Once more Lucera, and this time he gets in, he will see everything. This is really important for him to know.
I feel Su is one of those Zerg players that is a little bit underrated, or let's not really say underrated, but I think he flies a bit more under the radar. He has very good results in Pro League, he has done very well in this GSL Quad A season, but I feel that not a lot of people really know his name, because he's one of those guys who's just really, really good, but he doesn't make a big splash. He's not like a guy who you're like, oh yeah, of course, Su, of course I know him. He's not, so he doesn't have a big name yet, at least not in StarCraft 2.
I agree. If you're someone who watches only GSL matches, then you're probably not going to recognize him unless you've followed just this season of Code A. But otherwise, like you said, in Pro League tournament, you and I followed quite closely. He's doing it pretty well over there. Now, Lucera is doing what Lucera has done last game. He's adding all of his gas at once, adding the Evolution Chamber. And with the Queen spotted here, Su knows what's going on. But look at that wall. Perfect. Oh, well, one Ling gets in, but one Ling is not enough to change the tide of battle.
Yeah. One Ling is definitely not enough to take out the economy of Lucera or one of those.
That's not what the Ling's queen told him before he left the nest, but let's be honest, one Ling cannot change things.
Yeah, the Ling got pushed past the queens and then suddenly like, wait a second, I don't want to be here alone. Let me back.
Well, these evolution chambers for Lucera are going to serve multiple purposes. He's going to be able to get the upgrades and with the wall. And look at this, Su is actually going for a pretty early third base before the 7-minute mark.
Yeah, the decision to go into the third base instead of start the tech. And now we have a sick tech advantage, of course, for Lucera, who's going into the lair here, has more gas, is actually going into the armor upgrade, and Su decides that it's time not only to go into a third, but also at his tech and drone up. He's playing this right now a little bit greedy, But I'm not quite sure if Lucira is really ready to punish him. He doesn't even have an overlord at the left side to see this third base.
He's going over to check now, but it's a bit late, and Su's map presence gives him a feel of control because he knows his opponent's queens can't really go anywhere. If anything comes out of that base, he's going to know about it, and Lucira is probably just sitting here thinking, well, I've got the better tech, I'm going to use it. That's when I'm going to make decisions about how I deal with the third base if I see it. He still hasn't sent that overlord close enough to check for the third just yet, though.
Su is actually looking really good here.
Yeah.
There's no timing attack for Lucira, and Su will finish his Roach run shortly after Lucira. In everything that he does, he is a little bit behind, but this works so well with the third base that he has, which will give him extra gas and also minerals, also production. You can really see on the production tab that everything is a little bit later, but it is going to be so good for him once he saturates this third base.
And Lucira just barely did not see the third with his Overseer. Now he's going to see it. Now he knows.
Now it's going to be like, oh, what's going on here?
The thing is, he will only have basically one timing to punish his opponent. I don't even think he's going to try to use it. He will have +1/1 way ahead of his opponent. But I feel Lucira is just going to try to use the faster infestors that he feels he has and take his own third just a little bit late. I don't think he's going to try to attack with roaches.
He needs to make sure that he is not losing this third base. If there is any kind of attack coming out of Su, then Lucira has to be ready to ward it off. If he doesn't do that, he's going to be in trouble. And he's moving out. He will have the +1/+1, and this might give him the edge that he needs to put at least a bit of pressure on.
He might be able to kill some drones here, maybe get the queen, but he will definitely not kill the hatchery. And Su is actually supply blocked, so he can't react to this as quickly as he would like to. Now the overlords are finishing.
Yeah, but he's still supply blocked, and this is going to be a big problem for Su. If Lucira identifies this and just goes for it, it's going to take quite a while for Su to rebuild the units so that he can defend.
This pressure that we're seeing from Lucira, by the way, Su gets some lings in the main. He's going to be able to kill this queen easily.
And that's smart. Now he distracts Lucira. Yeah. Lucira does not attack anymore. He has to walk back to defend. That gives Su the time that he needed.
And this was what Lucira wanted to accomplish, was to force units out, but it just did not work because Su had the upper hand with that ling run by. And now Su has a big roach force to keep Lucira on the defensive. He's at just a slight lead in roaches, about 9 ahead of his opponent, but this is maybe enough to trade efficiently outside of a base. And since he's already mined more, if he trades even, then he becomes ahead.
Now the important part, there are the upgrades for Su. He builds the plus to pursue a bit slower, a few precious seconds that he loses, but still, Lucira, if he can't use this timing, then he's in trouble. And there we go, the roaches are streaming in, take out the Spine Crawler. They try to, but the transfuse are good, but they're not enough.
Yeah, and Lucira is going to lose a lot of his roaches here. Yeah, he can bungle, and this is going to be an even trade, but like I said before, since Lucira has not mined as much, an even trade is absolutely not what he wants here.
He needs a few more infestors with this last attempt. This would have been so good for him if he could have just ran in and fungal again, take down all the roaches. This would have really helped him. And now he's a bit ahead in general, but really, if those upgrades finish, then he might be able to hit this timing.
I'm looking at the gas mined by Lucira, and he's just now started, of course, but Su has mined only about 150 gas more than his opponent. He was more concerned with mining the minerals at his third base, so since his extractors were a little bit late, as far as gas goes for units like infestors and, of course, these upgrades that are coming out, Su doesn't have as much of an advantage as you might think.
Both of them are still fighting for the superiority in the worker count and in economy. And we have them on the same supply. The upgrades are finishing though for Lucira. And if Lucira knows about his lead in the upgrades, and he should with his fast attack that he had and the early evolution chambers that he knew about, then he could really try to hit this. He also has those infestors a bit early with a bit more energy. There are 4 of them on the map. He's getting additional ones now, but I don't think that he's really going to try to use the upgrade lead. Not with how he positions himself on the map at this point.
You're right. There's not much way he could try to use this. Now he's making a great decision here, though, to add the macro hatch, something that Su has already thought of, but it's really important for both players if they're going to sit on 3 base this long and max out and then start to trade against each other on the map. That extra hatchery gives you so much. And Su, in fact, is going to try to take this base along with this. Remember, on this version of the map, this is not the version of the map you played on the beta ladder where there's a collapsible rock tower. It actually just is a 4th base that is like in Tomb Valley where there's rocks blocking.
Hydras for both of them at the same time now that they build up their roach force.
The Ling gets in, buys Su a changeling to see what the army composition is. fighting here with more vision. Su on the other line of sight blocker gives him the first fungals. This is really important.
The fungals here are really good, but the infestors are a little bit out of position for Su right now. Both sides are fungaling like crazy, and Su is losing a lot more. Lucira is coming in. They're on the same amount of upgrades, but who is taking the fight? No fungal on those infestors in the back, but definitely the better army at this point for Lucira.
Yeah, Lucira having the better army, Su having a slightly better position.
Actually, the flank of Su comes in, and this changes the course of the battle.
I really feel like the reason why the battle started well with Su's fungals was because he was on the other side of the line of sight blocker, but he had an Overlord and an Overseer to see Lucira's army positioning itself, so he had the vision advantage, and Lucira couldn't see what was on the other side of the line of sight blocker, and he walked right into fungals. As it stands, the supply is even, but the map presence, the control that Su just got from this is important because now he has that fourth base that he can start to saturate.
Lucira has the Burrow upgrade, which helps him a bit with the regeneration. This is something that we need to keep in mind here, because we don't see it for Su. He doesn't have that. And also, we have for Lucira already the range upgrade. So, for the Hydra list, and he's getting 11 of them now. He will have the faster Roach Hydra composition.
Yeah. This is something that Lucira has not started. He's making his Hydras now, but he does not have the upgrade just yet. He hasn't even started it. Yeah. Oh, this is actually a really tense game because I feel like both players are going down the same path. It's just
a little bit of a different pace.
Exactly. You know, Su has his fourth base up faster, but he doesn't use it, so Lucira now has his own fourth up, and he's got the extractors going down as soon as possible, so even though Su could have had an advantage, he decided to fight in the middle of the map. Lucira took a decent trade. This game is really close.
It's still a game that either player could take. Lucira has the better bank. This is also something that we should point out again. He has nearly double the amount of gas, and sorry, not of gas, of minerals, and in gas they are even. Resources lost already, very much the same.
Yeah, just a slight advantage, in fact, for Lucira. And he will clear up those rocks, which is really important for taking that fourth. Yeah, they both took different bases. That's something we need to talk about as well. Lucira took the fourth that Su is now taking as his third, whereas Su is now taking the third as his fourth. So that gives him a more defensive position, I feel, because once his third starts to mine out, he's going to have more resources in a more defendable location.
Also more Hydra lists for Su. Sorry, for Lucira. Su is trying to catch up with that. Not able to do it just yet. Lucira is still trying to edge forward and build up that flank, and here we go. The fungals have been started. There we go with the entire fight as the Hydralists are now closing the distance, and Lucira is still in a position where he can deal more damage.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good concave here. His units just have so many more hit points, and he has more energy on his investors. I feel Lucira takes this fight easily now.
Lucira is trying to pull that off, while on the other hand we have Su now attempting to move in with reinforcements as Lucira builds 41 roaches.
Yeah, and he just has the much better bank to do that. Su is out of money after that remax. He can't even quite remax.
Even after Lucira maxed out again, he still has 1,400 minerals and also the gas. He is in a much better position regarding his economy, and taking this fight was very, very important. Now the question, is Lucira going in for the kill? Is he trying to this third base or walking into the fourth, where we have already a spine crawler wall set up for Su?
Yeah, he could try to do either. The spine crawler wall here is going to buy Su a little bit more time, but where are his investors? You know, I feel he's basically got no fungals left. He drops only infested Terrans here, and this is looking great for Lucira. I think he's just going to take this fight.
Su is even supply blocked. He couldn't even max out if he had the resources, and he doesn't have them. Here comes Lucira. Lucira wants the third game, and he's moving in, walking up the ramp, taking out the infestors and the Hydras. He's gonna win this fight for sure.
GG. Lucira, man, he took a opening where he was slightly behind and turned it into a good situation with good fights. See, the first fight he took relatively even trade against his opponent. Then he was able to mine from his fourth base around the same time as Su.
That was really well played by Lucira. 1-1 now. We're going into the third game.
Yep. And Lucira does not look like he's in a good mood, though. If you see his facial expression there, talking to Hirai now in the booth, I think he's very, you know, you can just see on his face he's affected by the game. This doesn't mean he won't be able to get himself together going into Daybreak here, but he does not seem happy.
Daybreak is definitely a map where both players, and especially Lucira, are more experienced in a Zerg versus Zerg.
Yes. And Su has not played on this map as long as Lucira. This is one of the older maps you have in our pool. Actually, I feel at this point now it is the oldest map, along with Cloud Kingdom.
Hirai not only massaging his player, but also taking care of his hair.
Yes. It's really important for programmers to have that hair care. If you know something, Lucira blows into his earpiece before he puts them into his ears. I want to try that next time I'm listening to music because I don't know what it does, but is he going to do it again? No. I just want to see what that does. Maybe he's just trying to make sure he doesn't have earwax in it because that would be gross.
I think he's a little bit nervous here.
He looks like it, but Sue, on the other hand, is breathing deeply as well. I think this is tense going into this game. This game decides who's going straight into Codes. Nobody wants to play in the up and downs.
Yeah.
Keller, would you like to play in the up and downs?
The thing is, I don't mind the up and downs. I wouldn't want to play Wings of Liberty anymore.
That's the
Heart
case.
of the Swarm is so much more exciting.
Well, not only is it more exciting, but if you win the up and downs going to Codes, you're playing the wrong game until you get there against players who have had more time to prepare.
Well, we will find one of them in the up and downs and one of them in Codes. That much is for sure. Now we're heading into Daybreak. Let's see who takes the series. This is GSL Code with KangHo.